Take a look at this frame. What do you notice about it? Take a closer look at the image. Do you notice the grain? The way the highlights roll off softly? How the colors look almost pastel-like? Even if you listen to the audio, it sounds like it was recorded on a mono microphone.
I can tell by your faces that many of you are shocked at the outcome.
Not stereo. All these elements lead you to believe that this was all shot on film, right? Well, what if I told you this was all actually shot on digital? The clips I'm showing you are from a movie called The Holdovers, a movie about a stern teacher looking after a student over the Christmas break of 1970. These two people who come from different upbringings and different outlooks on life will actually teach one another the importance of what it means to be human. I cataloged this film with the likes of Dead Poet Society and Scent of a Woman, not only because both films involve a school and a student, but because both involve mentors teaching students how to look at the world in a different way than they were previously told. The only reason why I asked you to examine those clips earlier is because how a film looks can impact how a film feels and how it can impact the story. Today, we are looking at one of my favorite Christmas movies of all time. I present to you The Holdovers.
Son of a bitch, that's another detention!
Alle jagda est. Is that you a real asshole?
Too bad everybody dislikes you. Pretty much hates you. But you must know that, right?
Of course you meant it metaphorically. What were you gonna do? Actually go and wash your hands?
Penis cancer in human form.
The film follows three characters. Paul Hunnam. He is one of those hard-ass teachers who's always strict and stern. He doesn't like his students very much because he thinks they're all little rich assholes, which, to be fair, most of them are. He has a very cynical overview on the world, and most of the teachers don't like him very much, except for a few staff members, of course. He doesn't like to go out much and prefers his time reading novels. Angus Tolley is a smartass. He's been kicked out of 3 schools, and this is his last attempt, or he'll be sent out to military school. He's young, rebellious in nature, and prefers to do his own thing. He is a liar. He lies about certain aspects about his life, and he lies to get out of certain situations. And the heart of the film, Mary Lamb, a grieving mother over the loss of her son's death in the war. She's a hard ass, but also is a very loving person. She often reminds Paul to show a little bit more sympathy towards Angus when he gets hauled over. She's also a cook for the school, and she plays more of a supporting character for the film, but every scene she's in is never boring. As Christmas time is around the corner for Barton Academy, all the kids are off on vacation spending time with their families. A select few whose families couldn't make it for them, Angus Tolley and a few other students are to be holed over for the Christmas break by teacher Paul Hunnam. Paul was not originally assigned to this, but got the job because a teacher who was supposed to watch students got out by lying about his mother's health, saying that she had lupus. Paul designs a strict study routine for the students. Squabbles happen between Angus and another student called Kuntz, who is a real asshole and bully to the other students being held over. But one by one, the parents come later than ever to retrieve their children, take them for vacation, but Angus's parents never come. His mother and new stepfather are on their honeymoon. After being married for 4 months, they decide to go now. When his mother promised him they would go on vacation and spend some time in Boston together. When the other students leave, Angus is clearly upset. A couple of scenes later, we are having lunch with the now trio, where Angus lies about wanting to use the restroom to instead use the telephone to book a hotel room. Paul catches what Angus was up to and decides to give him a detention, but Angus doesn't care.
Just earned yourself a detention, sir. Now get back here!
Being here with you is already one big fucking detention!
Son of a bitch, that's another detention!
And a chase around the school ensues. Angus and Paul make it to the unfinished gymnasium where Angus defies Paul and decides to jump on a platform, resulting in a dislocated shoulder. Paul rushes to get Angus to the hospital where Paul's job is now in jeopardy. Because if the headmaster of the school finds out about this, Paul will be fired and Angus will be sent to military school. Paul and Angus make it to the hospital where a nurse asks the two to fill out their insurance, knowing that if they do, they will get in trouble. So Angus decides to lie to skip the whole paperwork, to get his shoulder popped back into place. Paul is conflicted by Angus Tolley's actions towards the end because
Barton men don't lie.
in the next scene, they go to a pub to eat dinner, where Paul runs into a potential love interest, Miss Crane. Angus tries to have a beer, but fails. Miss Crane invites the two of them to go to her upcoming Christmas party that she's throwing at her place. place. The next day, Paul helps Mary prepare food and brownies for the party, and later that night, everyone gets dressed and heads out over to the party. I've talked about Angus and Paul, but let's touch on the other character in the movie, Mary. As I stated, she lost her son due to a war, and she's going through the grieving process. In the film, we see her go through the stages of depression and then finally acceptance. In the beginning of the film, she's silent and distant. Paul offers her to join them for dinner, but she declines, opting to go to her quarters and drink, smoke, and watch TV. But she's the one to bring Paul to understand Angus a little more. In one scene where Paul and Angus have an argument, Paul says he wishes he were somewhere else instead of here with Angus. Angus runs off. It's Mary who tells Paul,
You don't tell a boy that's been left behind at Christmas that you're aching to cut him loose, that nobody wants him? What the fuck is wrong with you?
She humanizes Paul. The climax of her depression comes during the Christmas party. She tells her co-worker, the janitor at the school, about her son's taste in music, how he loved the classics. As she drinks more and more, she gets angry, snapping at someone for trying to change the music. Then she breaks down crying about how her son is gone. Later on in the film, as Christmas morning arrives, Paul goes out to buy a Christmas tree for the three of them to make it seem more festive. Angus suggests that they go to Boston to have a real Christmas day out in the city. Paul suggests otherwise at first, but then says if it's a field trip for educational purposes, then it would be alright. Mary agrees to go as well, as long as she gets to stay at her sister's in the city. Paul drops off Mary, Angus helps her to her sister's apartment, where Mary unloads her luggage and baby clothes. Her sister is having a baby, and if she's having a boy, they would name him after Mary's son. It is at this point where Mary accepts her son's passing, as she can now move on. Angus and Paul spend Christmas Day in the city. Paul teaches Angus history in the museum with a little ancient pornography thrown in the mix. Later on, as Paul and Angus are walking through the park, Paul runs into his old college classmate, who is clearly more successful than Paul, gloating how he got tenure at Harvard. Paul not knowing what to say, Angus comes in for the rescue and lies about Paul's achievements. And Paul goes along with the lie, and Paul furthers the lie, leaving his more successful roommate a bit jealous. Angus curiously wants to know what's the history between the two. It's revealed that his old roommate cheated on Paul's tests and then blamed Paul for cheating off him. Then Paul got kicked out of Harvard, not only for quote-unquote cheating, but for hitting his roommate with a car, breaking 3 ribs. The next scene in the hotel room, we learn that Angus takes depression medication, and Paul takes the same kind of medication, linking the two in a very odd way. The next few scenes, we see Angus teaching Paul how to roll a bowling ball, and the two of them enjoying a movie at the theater. Angus suddenly decides to leave the theater to use the restroom, where he runs off to find a taxi. Paul catches on quickly and gets furious at him, but Angus has a good reason. He wants to go see his father. Earlier on in the movie, Angus says his father is dead. So when the scene happens in the movie, Paul of course agrees to take Angus to a cemetery, only to find out his father is not buried in a cemetery, but actually staying at a mental health facility. Angus tries to have a heart-to-heart with his father, but it seems his father is too far gone to even recognize his own son. We then lead into the backstory of Angus's father, where he was fine at first, but then he wasn't. He became more erratic, saying odd stuff. They put him on medication, but that made it worse, making him more confused. Then he became physical, and that was the last straw. He got sent away, divorced without even knowing about it. Angus tells us how easy it was for his mom to stash him away out of boarding school because maybe whenever she looks at him, she's reminded of his father. Angus expresses his fear about one day becoming like his father, but Paul chimes in saying,
Angus, listen. You're not your father. How do you know? Because no one is his own father.
Paul says the world is a better place, and it seems to think the same of him, and they both have this in common. Yes, Angus may be a pain in his ass, but he is young and smart, and he has time to turn things around. Just then, Mary arrives on the scene. Angus sees a dessert at the other end of the dining room and asks if he can have it, but the waitress says it contains alcohol, and it's against the rules.
Christ on a crutch. What kind of a fascist hash foundry are you running here?
The waitress, visibly annoyed, Mary comes and asks for ice cream and cherries, where the three go out in the parking lot where Paul pours some of his whiskey on the cherries and ice cream and sets it ablaze, where it catches fire and falls to the ground. The three have a big laugh. Everyone is back at Barton huddling around the TV, about to watch the ball drop on the new year, and set off a firecracker in the kitchen, where the four have a good send-off to the new year. The next few scenes, we see Barton Academy back to as it once was. Classes going on, rowing lessons, and basketball games ensuing. Miss Crane goes to Mr. Hunnam's class to tell him that the headmaster wants to have a word. Paul heads down to see Angus outside the office with a look of despair. With that hint, he prepares himself for what is to come. Here we meet Angus's parents for the first time. Angus's mom asks if her son tricked Mr. Hunnam in any way to go see his father, because now Angus's father is asking when he's going to be released, and he hit one of the guards with the snow globe that Angus gave him, and now they have to relocate his father. But Paul, after spending 2 weeks with the young lad, decides to place the blame on himself. He expresses how, yes, Angus may be a pain, but he is a smart boy. If his parents pull him out now, it would ruin his future. Paul defends Angus's name with honor, but the resulting factor is he gets fired. We see Paul clear out his room and packing all of his luggage into a moving truck. Coon sits outside spreading false rumors of how Mr. Hunnam might have been fired. But Angus thinks differently. Angus and Paul have their last moments in the film, where the two of them share a moment of silence and say,
Barton man.
Barton man.
After this, Paul says his final words to Angus. And with that, the school bell rings and Angus is off, with Paul hoping for him the brightest future possible. Paul drives off, spitting whiskey on the ground, and leaves the school grounds as he is off to wherever life will take him next. This movie is an emotional roller coaster. It takes you to each character's perspectives, and you get to learn more and more about him as the film goes on, revealing more layers to this rich story. This film never fails to make me cry. With its wintertime setting, its filmic look and style, and its well-written characters, this film is a certified Christmas classic. For more content like this, consider subscribing to the Negative Prince channel, and I wish you all a Merry Christmas.